Hello, hello. Hopefully, you guys don't hear this creaking in the back of my chair. It has these sounds. So, hopefully, it doesn't get too distracting. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but welcome in, welcome in. And I see that Janis is here. So, let's get her in. I saw, where is she? Janis. Where art thou? There we go. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome in. I always say this. I know every time I come on here, I say the same thing that I'm excited. Hi,
Hi.
Janis. So, for those who don't know, Janis is my blood cousin. Can you tell we look alike? I actually saw, for those who don't know, I've been fasting. So I've been fasting Instagram as well. Just have my scheduled post going. But I did, when I jumped on, I did see somebody made a comment about them looking at the post. And the first thing they said is, oh, they must be related before even looking at the caption.
Aw.
So yes, we are related. We are related. But thank you, Janis, for agreeing to come on and share your story. I'm just trying to say hi to all these people coming in to share your story. I don't think I know the full story, but I know majority of it. So some of this
Yeah.
may be a little new to me. But I know as we kind of talk about things before we get there, let's introduce you. How about you introduce yourself to the people?
All right. I'm Janis. I am Tenn-Lai's #1 show on the internet. I am Jamaican, living in Jamaica. I'm a mommy and a wife and a Christian, and I think that's it.
Multiple different hats that she wears, multiple different hats. But for the sake of this conversation, those are the things that are, beneficial. But kind of let's get into your story. So talking about, we're going to talk about pregnancy, and then getting into your birth and your delivery, and then transitioning into motherhood. So I know you said that you had a pretty decent pregnancy, no issues, no nothing.
I mean, I didn't have anything that was like an emergency issue. When we got pregnant, and it wasn't automatic, I wasn't one of those persons who accidentally got pregnant, or we just said we were going to start trying and then boops, we got pregnant. That wasn't my journey. But when we did get pregnant, I had what they call morning sickness. And that lasted about 4.5 months. But it wasn't just in the morning, it was all day. So that's the first lie. It's
Ooh.
not morning sickness for a lot of us. For a lot of us, it lasts all through the day. I'd wake up at night and I'd be like wanting to retch and wanting the relief of being able to do it, and just nothing ever came out. So those first 4.5 months were like maybe the roughest part of the pregnancy, up until it was time to give birth. I had taken my maternity leave early because I was in a very high stress job, and it involved driving to and from court, walking upstairs, multiple levels of stairs because elevators weren't really in use at that time. And I felt like, I just wanted to relax. So I took maternity leave 3 weeks earlier. And before that, I would have been working out of my home for 2 weeks before that, which doesn't really happen at that time in Jamaica. So
And how long ago was this, Janis? Like, how old is your baby boy?
my son is 6. He's 6. So this would have been 7 years ago, if we're not that. Yeah. I had him at 40 weeks and 1 day.
Well, not so far off from 40 weeks and 3 days.
Yeah. So full term. Yes, Kimmy, 4.5 months of morning sickness. Yes. But pregnancy, I really can't complain. I didn't have high blood pressure. I didn't have like back pain or, swollen feet or whatever. It was pretty decent. If I was nervous about something, I'd scare myself even more by looking it up on the internet. But apart from that, there wasn't really anything. We didn't know he was a boy until pretty late because he kept hiding, and we had to do like a 4D ultrasound in order to find out what he was. And that would have been when I saw his face on the ultrasound scan thing. What's that called? A scan thing, picture, whatever it is. Right. It would have been, I don't know. It would have been the second time I'd seen his face, because I actually had a dream where I saw his face and I was told his name. And I woke up and I woke my husband up and I was bawling, and he's like, "What's wrong?" But then I was just like, I saw his face. I know his name. So going to get the ultrasound.
Face. When you saw his face, did you see his face as a baby, or did you see his face as a baby? Okay.
Face as a baby. Yeah. So we agreed to use the name that came, because it was just his first name that came to us in the dream. And then his godparents actually gave us his middle name that chose from like a list of things that we were looking at. But that's just background. Like I said, I did not have a bad pregnancy, but I did have an instinct, a feeling, I don't know what it is, discernment from God, I don't know, that labor and delivery was going to be rough, right? So I said to my husband when it was coming close to that time that in the event that he needs to choose between me and our son, he needs to choose our son. And I was just like, "Yo, you have to promise me." And he's like, "All right, I promise you." I don't know if he meant the promise, but he said he promised me. And I literally said to him, once he comes out, you follow him. You leave me and you follow him. Right? That said, on a Friday evening, I started to feel cramps. And I had been losing my mucus plug slowly from like the week before, or that week, right? And I went to the bathroom and I thought I saw what would have been the beginning of my water breaking, but it was literally trickling, like nothing big, nothing like what you see in the movies. That did not happen to me. And because we don't live close to the hospital where I was planning to deliver, we left and went. Did we go to the hospital right away? We were timing the contractions and we were in touch with my doctor. And based on the contraction, she said I should go to the hospital. Went to the hospital, nothing happened. Went back home to my parents' house, slept, and woke up the next day. More pain, more contractions, barely any fluid. Pain sped up, contractions sped up, and went back to the hospital. They shaved me and everything, and then everything slowed down. Came back out of the hospital. Went in again. Yeah, man, drama. Went in again on Sunday. And at that time, they were just like, "All right, well, your pain levels are really very high. Your contractions are consistent." So at that point, they were like, "I'm going to strap the belt around you and we're going to monitor what's happening with the baby."
Yeah.
And then the equipment failed.
What?
Yeah. The equipment failed. And at that point, they weren't able to measure my contractions. But I had told my doctor I don't want pain medication. I don't want an epidural. I want to do a natural birth because I'm here feeling like I'm a ninja. First baby. And I'm just like, I'm going to ninja this out. Natural birth, no pain meds. So Sunday night, nothing happening. Monday, everything started to speed up, right?
This is a lot
Um,
from Friday. Now
we're at
God.
Monday. So
Okay.
everything's starting to speed up. I'm thinking, okay, cool. I spent the night, I slept, I wake up, I'm gonna have this baby today. 12 o'clock, nothing. 2 o'clock, nothing. I am maybe 3 centimeters dilated at this time. They're like, okay, if nothing happens tonight, we're gonna induce you. No, the lady who was in the room next to me, she was induced and she was over there bawling. I'm
Mm,
already in pain and I'm just like, do
I
I
don't.
really want to be induced? Anyways, the rest of my water finally came out.
Okay.
And this was about 5:45. Things started to speed up. I actually lost feeling in my legs. And because I was in pain for so long, I was literally shaking. So like I was shaking.
Mm.
Around 6:15 thereabouts, I started to throw up, right? At this point, she's like, okay, I'm gonna give you like the liquid version of Panadol to help you manage your pain. Couldn't feel my legs, couldn't feel a certain part of my hand. I
Hold on.
am there throwing
First,
up.
let me say something. So you're experiencing all this pain, and yes, I know you want to be like superwoman. I'm gonna do this all natural. You didn't say, okay, no, enough of this. Give me the epidural. Like there was none of that at all before you went numb. None of that. Okay.
I remember specifically asking her for more painkiller, and she was like, there is no more to give you in the form that you want. We'd have to give you the epidural. And I was just like, yeah, no, no thanks. So anyways, I am being now taken to the living room. They're setting me up and they're telling me push. After an hour of pushing and nothing happening, yeah, nothing was happening. He was engaged. She kept saying that she could see him. I was pushing, throwing my head to the side, throwing up, pushing, head to the side, throwing up. My husband now was at the point where he was behind me, holding me up because I didn't have enough strength to
Yeah.
hold myself up and push. Long story short, she had to slice and dice me,
Ooh,
do an episiotomy because remember he's already down there. She can see his head, so it's
yeah.
not they can't do a C-section.
It's true.
And
Status. Yeah, it's definitely past ninja status. So
money. um, so then she's like, okay, well, forceps. Takes the forceps. And now this is the point where I can literally say to you, I'm not feeling any pain. The pain has gotten to a point where I'm at the crest and I'm just not feeling any pain. And she is just like, she sliced me this way and this way, got the forceps, and pulled him out. Right? And at this point, he wasn't crying because he didn't have enough oxygen. So they were resuscitating him, and she was trying to stop me from bleeding out. Right? So I can't remember anything between the point when they took Ben. I don't remember seeing anything. I just remember hearing his pediatrician, he's my sister-in-law, saying, cry, let mommy hear you. And then I heard him. And then I was just like, all right, cool. The next thing I remember was when I was being stitched up. She had given me some sort of local anesthesia, but typical fashion, it didn't work. So I was feeling when the needle went in,
yep.
I went in, yeah. So remember that. And then I don't remember anything else. I remember being in a room, a hospital room, and my husband coming in and saying, he's okay, he's okay. We'll have a child, we'll have a child. And then I did not see my child until the next morning. So I woke up the next morning and I just saw like 7 nurses around me and just being like, they were saying to me, we're happy you made it.
Wow.
So I'm going to try not to cry. But later on when I'd go back for my 6-week checkup with a doctor, she said to me, this is literally the worst and hardest experience I've ever had with anybody. And in the moment, I didn't know what was happening in terms of with my body, but all of my vitals were low, all of my levels were low. I wasn't able to get discharged from the hospital for a couple of days. But it didn't hit me until later. So all of this is happening to my body. I don't know what kind of emotional state I'm in. I haven't seen or held my child at this point.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm seeing Miguel hold the baby, and then at maybe lunchtime, they're bringing the cot in with our son. And he was laying on his side, and I was laying on my side. Because, like you're swollen. Yes. You have ice packs all over you. They're trying to tell me I'm still bleeding. And not the bleeding that happens after, but like I'm still bleeding from delivery.
Yeah.
And they are trying to make me as comfortable as possible, but I'm literally on ice. And obviously they would have had to feed him by this time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't hold him yet. But when they did give him to me, I felt nothing. And I said to myself,
what's going on?
Yeah. I wanted a child. We didn't accidentally get, whatever. I wanted a child. I loved having him in my belly. And it was, like I said, uneventful pregnancy. And then the nurse who came to get him after they had put him on me was saying to me, she said, you're not going to be able to breastfeed. And I'm already...
Don't get me started on that. Continue.
I'm already at the point where I don't know what's going on in my body. I've barely seen my child. I am realizing that he had to be resuscitated. I'm realizing that, they're coming to me and saying, we're happy you're alive. And I'm just dealing with all of that, plus the overwhelm of not having my baby in my stomach, and not seeing him.
Hearing them say that we're happy you're alive, like, obviously, okay, there was some difficulty. That, but you don't know the extent of why they keep saying, I'm happy you're alive. What does that mean? Like, why do you keep saying that? And I'm sure it's like, it's now saying, maybe even months later, it's now clicking and saying, I went through this, right? Yeah. 6 weeks, it still hasn't hit you to say what exactly happened, right?
And it didn't hit me until months later. And I think, so my mother told me that she was in labor with my older brother for almost 36 hours. But it was just labor, right? It wasn't like, whatever. But she did tell me that the worst thing as a woman ever does to her body is deliver a child. Right? So the changes that your body goes through, though your body is made for it, it's literally the biggest difference in your body that you'll ever feel. And it never comes to you all at once. You have women that, I'd hate to use the word bounce back, but they feel closer to normal fast or quickly. And then you have the women that don't feel closer to normal quickly. And I don't really hear people talking about that.
And we need to. We need to, because it's actually more common than you think. But everybody thinks that, no, it's just a me problem because they don't care about it, right? So it happens. It happens.
So because my levels were low, my hormone levels were low, my oxytocin was low, they had to be giving me medication to bring them back up. So of course that affects my supply. But after that nurse said what she said, I couldn't handle it. So I literally broke down. And my husband, God bless him, got very, very involved and basically complained, is a light word, to head nurse. And you know, she came back in and she apologized on behalf of the nurse, and she took her off at my room route, and she showed me, you know, the different placement for breastfeeding, and she said to me, if nothing comes out now, and the chance is that nothing is going to come out now because your body is still recovering from what you went through, you still have to put the baby on. Number one, it brings up your oxytocin levels, and it will help you come out of the hospital faster. And then number two, if you do breastfeed, this will help to start the process.
Yes.
So I didn't have any colostrum for the first 8-9 days. So nothing was coming out. So they taught us how to bathe him. They taught us how to dress him and take care of him, how to make him sleep. And
you're talking about the nurses, or kind of going into one of the questions that I have, but do you guys have lactation consultants there to help you, or is it just strictly nurses, and nurses are the ones that pretty much do everything that a lactation consultant would do?
The nurses, but you do have nurses at particular hospitals that are also lactation consultants, but they're kind of few and far between.
Okay.
And they're overworked.
Understood.
Yeah. So when I did get home, and I did take him home, at that point we were cup feeding, where they put, you know, milk into the top of a cup, or the very, very small cups, and you literally just tip it into their mouth, right? And when I finally started producing milk, it wasn't a lot, but it was enough for me to feel like, okay, I can feed him from myself and I can feed him from the bottle.
Yes.
And we supplemented the entire time, but I breastfed for a little over a year.
Good. No, that's good. And that was one of my questions, which you answered, is how was your delivery experience affecting your milk supply? Do you remember, I know you said you didn't get any colostrum until 8 days later, but do you remember typically how long it took for your milk to actually come in?
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. But you know, you can say that you breastfed. Doesn't matter if you supplemented, you breastfed. Yeah. And as you hear Janis talk about this, I have to share a story here. So, I don't
you know what you're gonna say.
December, January, February, March. Was it March? I think it was March that we went. 7 months. I think he was 7 months. Beans was 7 months. And every year, so apart from obviously COVID and the year before that, actually it's been, I don't think we've gone on a trip since I've gotten married.
Maybe.
Anyways, so every year, my aunt, Janis, my mom, and I, we go on a trip to Miami. For whatever reason, it has always been Miami. We've tried to go places, but it ends up being Miami.
Yeah.
And I remember he was 7 months, and she went, you know, to Miami with my aunt and myself, my mom. And I didn't have any kids, obviously, so I know about breastfeeding, but like how it actually happens, I didn't understand. So I see Janis, she had a pump and she's pumping the breast milk, and I'm like, I was so fascinated seeing like milk actually come out of your breast. Like I hear it, but I can see it.
It's cool. Like, it's very cool.
It is. But even outside of that, the fact that, I don't know, moms, if you know this, those who have breastfed, but when you hear a baby cry or you see something that reminds you of your baby and you just start leaking. We were in the mall and Janis heard a baby and it's like, bam.
Yeah.
It's not her baby. She just hears a baby. It's honestly, it's so funny how our body works. It's so funny and fascinating all at the same time. To
Yeah.
see, you know, you can leak at the sound of something. There's phantom cries where, you know, you be in the shower, you hear your baby crying, you go check in, they're fast asleep. So many things happen to our body. But now as you enter into like motherhood, so now you're going through your breastfeeding, you're in motherhood. How would you say your opinion of what you thought motherhood was like? Because you said, you know, you always want to be a mom. You envision like having your children. Now you're actually in it. Was your idea of what you thought motherhood was going to be like actually how it was when you entered into it? And what are some of those things that you thought versus what was reality?
Um, yes and no. So, yes to spending time getting to know who your child is. I love that part. So, I
Mm-hmm.
love like watching a child's personality develop. So, even like when they're very, very small and they can't talk yet and, you know, they can barely express themselves, I always feel like children are so opinionated, and
Yes.
if they get the chance to express it however they need to express it, then I find that so fun to watch. So that for me was pretty much the same, because I knew how to take care of babies. I knew how to take care of newborn, whatever stage, because I always wanted kids, so I made myself learn, right?
Yes.
What I was not prepared for was how consuming it is, right? And how very easy it is to lose your identity to
Mm-hmm.
motherhood. So, because I took so long to kind of feel that this was my child, um, I had a very serious disconnect in my mind emotionally with my son for that period.
Mm-hmm.
And if I couldn't figure out what was wrong, or if I don't know, I felt like I couldn't understand him or I didn't do something right, or if I had pressure coming from something else,
Yeah.
it made me kind of feel useless,
Mm-hmm.
for want of a better word. And my mother was literally my crutch holding me up. But when she went home in the evening, and before my husband would come back from work, I'd be alone with the baby.
Yeah.
And that for me was the hardest time because I didn't have anybody to explain what was happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes they call it the witching hour, but he had reflux. So in the evenings, especially, he would just cry for an hour every evening. He would cry for an entire hour,
My gosh.
right? And I'm alone with the baby. So this is between maybe 4:30 and 5:30, 5 to 6.
Yeah.
Every evening for 4 months, right? And I remember one day in particular, I just sat him in the crib, laid him down on his side, and he was bawling, and I was just bawling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying to myself, I don't know
But
how to handle this.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know how to handle this. And then because I was so consumed in that moment, I held on to it. I didn't express it. I didn't ask for help. And it made all the other moments that much harder.
Yeah.
So I would just sit in a corner when he's sleeping, or if I'm outside the house, I'd find a corner by myself and I just cry for no reason. I would wake up multiple times a night and think I hear him crying, but he's not crying. He's fast asleep. I'm just hearing the echoes of him crying earlier.
Yeah. Do you think that your experience with delivery impacted everything that was happening? Obviously, you can't stop him from crying for that hour, right? But your reaction and the way that you felt towards him, because obviously when you first had him, you did have a disconnect originally, and then obviously it grows into that. So all of that being added, your delivery, the disconnect, all of that, do you think that it impacted the way that you really felt for these 4 months, especially?
Oh, definitely. When I got home from the hospital, washed everything, but what I wore to give birth in, I could literally smell the blood, right,
Ooh,
that I lost on that table,
yeah.
right? But it wasn't a smell. Like, the smell was not there, but I had to throw it out. So literally everything I took to the hospital with me,
Yeah.
I had to throw it out. And it kind of felt like he wasn't mine, because, like I said, I made it my business to bear on babies. I've been babysitting since I was 14 years old. If I have somebody in my life who has a baby, I want to be there. I want to be around the baby. Love being around the baby. And
Yeah.
my friend had babies months before me. So it felt like I was taking care of a baby, but it didn't feel like he was my baby.
Yeah.
And then, because I felt bad for, in my mind, I was suffocating him and I couldn't push him out.
Mm.
It took
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah.
It took a while. So I remember one day it finally happened and I finally connected with him. And the overwhelming feeling, because remember, there are several things that are happening at this time. My doctor explained it to me a little bit. If you are in prolonged labor and you can't expel the baby yourself and the baby is pulled from you, it can affect how quickly your hormones come back, right?
Mm.
So you'd have heard me mention my oxytocin levels were very low.
Yeah.
That actually makes you a higher candidate for postpartum depression, which I didn't realize I had. My mother realized that I had it. So she was very, very instrumental in letting me get pockets, even though I had a baby, of time where I wasn't being defined as a mother.
Good.
So going on that trip at 7 months was one of those things. Forcing me out of the house to go and watch a movie at, like, when he was a month old. She says 3 hours and come back home. So
Yeah.
even though I'm dealing with that tremendous guilt, I already feel like I'm suffocating my child or I have suffocated my child and not
Yeah.
feeling a connect. I can't sleep properly. Other things that were going on. She really pushed me to experience good things outside of motherhood. And I think that was really, like, my husband, my mother, and my family in general, my brothers, my daddy, were really, really the ones who kind of pulled me out of that place.
Yeah.
And whenever I think about a woman who has just given birth and she's literally by herself, I'm always just like, I know I would not have survived without my community.
Yeah.
I don't know how that woman is doing it, you know? And that's why it hurts me when people don't emphasize the important role of a father, right? Because he's not just holding the baby, a good partner makes you and the baby a priority in your most vulnerable time. And like I said before, the most damaging thing, the most shocking thing you can do to your body is give birth.
Yeah.
You know, so even if you don't have like a partner, there has to be somebody that you depend on to pull you through, because a lot of these things are happening to you and to your body and your mind, and you're trying to care for your child, and it's very easy to not care for yourself.
And especially at a time where it's not just caring for the baby, because you know, like you said, you're a wife, so you have the duties of a wife, you know, still even taking care of the house, you and your partner still taking care of the house, but outside of that, you're healing.
Yeah.
A woman in general that's given birth, whether C-section or vaginally, you are healing. And with your experience, it wasn't a normal experience.
No.
So and even just thinking about how long it would have taken you to heal from such a traumatic birth experience. Like, I'm sorry, the way that you got cut is no, it's
It did
not.
not take 6 weeks. I can't tell you that much. It did not take 6 weeks.
Oh my, and even after that, like I know months later, you were still dealing with things from birth. You can say, yeah, my child is, 7 months, 8 months old, but you're still healing. Your insides are actually trying to get themselves back
to the
right. It's not easy. And like you said, that's one thing that Adrian and I talked about. We had a baby during COVID. That's hard. I had my mom here with me for a week and a half, which was great. You know, she made sure that we ate and that, Adrian go sleep, Tenn-Lai go sleep, plus, baby sleeping most of the time anyways. But going through that process of learning to breastfeed, and that's like my story can be told another time. And those who have heard it, then you're aware of it. But there's so much going on of you're figuring out how to breastfeed. You're also trying to heal. There's postpartum depression involved in this. You're also trying to say, okay, I'm trying to figure out my child. It's a lot that we go through. It's not just physical, hormonal changes that are happening within us. Bleeding.
Yeah.
It's not nice. It's not nice.
I mean, you can't sit down the same way you used to sit down before. It's not. It takes time. Like you're literally in agony. Yeah.
And you want to hold your baby, and you're holding your baby certain ways, and you're like, hey, don't move because I gotta move. And if I move right now, the journey is not easy. And I think that those who may be on here that don't have children, understanding that it's not just saying, okay, I have a child, the child's born, and then there's nothing else. There's a process that your body goes through in terms of healing. There's hormonal changes that happen. Some people experience baby blues. Some people experience postpartum. Some people don't experience anything at all. But hearing these stories is also to say, your experience is not necessarily going to be what Janis' experience was, but understanding that there's things that also happen with giving birth that we don't talk about. And I'm glad we're having a conversation like this. And you mentioned just community, having your family around to help you get through postpartum depression, help you even heal, help you remember that you're not just a mom. Yes, you just had a baby, but you're not just a mom. You're responsible for yourself as well. And you and I have had this conversation where you even told me, like, I truly enjoy motherhood. I never wanted children. Now I have a son, and I'm like, whoo, motherhood has clearly brought me into a whole different person that sometimes I forget to think of myself. What do I need to do? When do I need to step away? But for moms who don't have anybody around, especially during COVID, I can just imagine mentally, physically, what's happening. I don't know if you know anybody that has had a child during COVID and what their experiences are like. It's not easy.
It's hard. Like I literally was being held up by my husband. But
Yeah.
now you have hospitals who are just like, yo, no partner inside. So I can't imagine you going through something that is very scary, you
Yeah.
know, when we come down to it, because I'm not in a rush to go back into a delivery room because of that experience, right? I would love to have more children.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to be smart about it. I have to be in a place mentally and emotionally for
Yeah.
me to be able to go there. And then it's not just about me and how I feel. My husband watched me break, you know, and that had an impact on him.
Yeah.
And he has to be in a place emotionally and mentally to potentially go there again. But God forbid that if we do go there again, that this experience is repeated.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, not everybody's journey is the same. Because I would have spoken to girlfriends who gave birth before, and they were just like, yeah, you know, little pain, you push, and then, you know, you sit in a sitz bath for a couple weeks, a week, a couple days, and then you're fine. You know, and that was their experience. It doesn't invalidate their experience that they had an easier time, not easy, easier time
Yeah.
than me. But it always seems to me that we're talking about, you know, women who have these quick births and then they're out and they're fine. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I've never heard anybody speak about what happened to me. And I haven't met anybody who has shared that they would have gone through postpartum depression with
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
you know. But I think it's important to know what the signs are, which are, we don't have to go through that now because you would have discussed some of those last week.
Yeah.
But know what the signs are, know how to be supportive, try to help mommy connect with baby, but it will happen eventually. Go into it with an open mind if you are pregnant, because what can happen is scary, but what you get out of it is beautiful.
Yes.
And try to build a community if you don't have one when you're pregnant. And if you don't have a partner going through it, because sometimes men just don't do it. Some men, you know,
Yeah.
literally say to somebody, I need you to be my partner,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
there's with that because there's some men that will probably, like, my husband is a different kind of husband. He wants to be down there cutting the, like, holding baby, everything. But there are some men that just say, I can't handle that. I don't want to see what's happening down there. I don't want to see that transformed because I'm not used to it looking that way. Like, there's many different things, and there's nothing wrong with that to say, you know what? I need somebody that's going to be in the room with me, that's going to be supportive. Do you mind if my mom comes in? Are you okay with if my sister comes in, if so and so comes in? And it's understanding that it's not to say that you're not good enough, but I'm going through something that is life changing and I need support. I need somebody who's gonna, hold my back and allow me to push. I need somebody who's not gonna be passing out on the floor and I'm concerned about them while I'm giving birth. Because I've actually heard a story. I have to share this. I actually heard a story um, where the husband, I'm laughing to myself as I think about it. The husband was in the room and I don't even remember. I think he was falling asleep or something. And uh,
During the birth?
no, so she was in labor, but he was falling asleep for whatever reason. I can't remember what the comment was. I can't remember what the comment was, but while she was actually going at this point, she's finally going through labor, and he said he was tired and he wanted to sleep or something, and she started pushing, and he's like, at least you're laying down in the bed, and she's like,
Excuse me?
get him laying in the bed, pushing this child through, get out, and
And he's
now
like, at least you're laying down?
so now when they talk about it, like they can laugh about it and say, okay, I was the foolish comment. But
We're all grown, we learn, right? We're all growing and we're all learning.
but I wanted to kind of, before, because I know we're almost an hour, 15 minutes, but that's fine. I wanted to just talk about in terms of like family history. If you know you experience your experience, do you know how Auntie went through it? Like what her birthing three children, what that was like? Was there anything that she went through that was similar to what you went through? I know you talked about the labor, so the 36 hours for her with my older cousin, but in regards to anything else, were there any similarities?
Um, she did have baby blues when she had her first child. But she experienced community from her church. So the older ladies in her church, they didn't ask to show up, right? And that actually inspired her to do what she does, which is she literally goes to women that, you know, just gave birth, and she teaches them how to breastfeed and take care of themselves. So that's what I like about her. Those two things: how to take care of yourself as a new mother, and how to breastfeed and take care of your child. She's really very good with that. She had 3 kids. Her first one was the longest. And she said it was painful, but when she had me, she wasn't able to, I came before they were able to clean her up. So I was fast. So Carl was very long. And I was fast. I came early and I was fast. So she felt the first contraction like 11 o'clock at night, and I came at 1 a.m. Right? So between contraction, getting ready, going to hospital, my father was preaching outside a parish, so he didn't need, I was born before he came to the hospital. Yeah. So her.
You couldn't wait for your father, Janis?
Apparently, and I love him so much, right? Apparently not. And then her last delivery was quick, but she said painful. And the level of pain that she had with him, she said she knew that was her last child because she wasn't with it again. But as far as similarities go, no, just in terms of the length of labor, so I was anticipating a long labor, which is again why I didn't want the epidural, because I felt like I was an angel, and if I was going to get the epidural, then it wouldn't make sense because it would slow down things, and I was already gonna take long, in my opinion, and I did take long, but you know, I am concerned that if I do have another child, I may not be able to push. But as I speak to more women who would have, you know, pushed out a child or gotten a C-section, they're like, don't put so much pressure on yourself to have this Hollywood version of a hippie birth. Because at first I did want a water birth, but even if I had planned a water birth, I would not have been able to have a water birth.
Yeah.
You know, because of what happens. And I think that's what we need to realize. The first thing about motherhood, about being a parent, is you have a lot less control than you think you do. Like, literally.
And that's the thing, is that some mothers that I've talked to is like, there's nothing wrong with planning. There's nothing wrong with having like your birth plan, whatever, but you also have to be willing to say, if it comes to it, to throw that birth plan out of the way, because if your mind is stuck on one thing, and if it doesn't happen that way, you're going to be distraught and trying to focus on that. And also another thing that I learned is, I know they typically say, like you said, the epidural kind of slows things down. But for my case, it actually went quicker. And I think that it went quicker for me, which is when talking to some like midwives, is because a lot of times when we're going through pain, we tense up. We're tensing so much, and we're going through all of this that when you relax your body is when baby comes down and it's easier. So I know when I got between the time I got the epidural, they had told me that I was going to, I think it was like maybe 8 or 9 o'clock when I got the epidural. And they're like, okay, you got the epidural, you know, slows things down a little bit. I was 5 centimeters at this time. So, you know, we're expecting baby to be born about 9 a.m., 10 a.m. Nope.
Next day? That's how long it takes?
Well, that's what they were predicting in my case.
Wow.
So I'm like 5 centimeters, you're predicting 10 o'clock in the morning. All right, fine. So they're like, get some rest. That was not what happened. Baby was born at 1:57 a.m. It was, doctor was gonna go do a C-section. You know, they said, okay, we're about to go do a C-section. Let me just check you out. They checked me out. They're like, oh, you're 10 centimeters. Okay, we're coming now. C-section. Gonna have to wait. Baby's coming now. So sometimes that's another thing to consider is that, yes, they say typically it can slow things down, but if you're tensing so much and you're in so much pain, you're not allowing your body to relax to let baby come.
Yeah.
So it's not making sure that you're not so focused on this plan that I'm not going to do this. And I'm not saying everybody has to get an epidural. By no means. I know there's some people who definitely want to do things natural. And if that's the case, try relaxing your body and stop thinking about, oh my gosh, am I going to tear? Am I going to do that? Because that was one of my thoughts. Am I going to tear? Am I going to poo? What am I going to do? All these things coming through your mind. But if you relax, it helps baby come out. But it doesn't necessarily stop whatever you're supposed to experience, because it ends up being, like Janis is talking about, your testimony, right? What you experience, and tell other mothers and encourage other mothers to talk about their birthing experience too.
Yeah. Talk about the bad, talk about the good, talk about the bad, talk about it.
Good and not just bad, or not just the good, because it's important to be aware of things that have happened, that can happen, and how you can also say, if I'm in this situation, what can I do to help myself, right?
And to know that this has happened before, so you're not you know. So yeah. And another thing, get a doctor that you trust, like unequivocally, because if your plans change, and that tends to happen, you need to be able to trust your doctor, or be able to ask your doctor, what should I do now? You know? And for your doctor to feel like they have your respect, so that if they have a suggestion that goes against your plan, they feel comfortable enough to say it to you. You know?
So, question for you, because I know with everybody it's kind of different. You had an OB, right? Not a midwife.
Right, I had an OB/GYN.
So was it the OB that was there for your delivery, or was it another doctor that would just happen to be on shift that gave your OB?
My doctor. Yeah, that was something I was very grateful for. The persons I had in the delivery room were the persons I wanted to be there. So there was one nurse holding one foot, another nurse holding another nurse holding what I was throwing up into. My husband behind me, my sister-in-law, and my doctor. Yeah.
Okay.
As far as I remember.
That's good, because I know, like, for example, for myself, I had a midwife, and then because of complications, we had to go to an OB. But my OB was not the person that delivered my son. It was whoever was on call, and thank God the person, I can't even tell you what her name was. If I saw her, I probably wouldn't remember. But all I can tell you, her demeanor, she was good. She was actually hands off. Because my experience, it was a little bit different from Janis, is I did have a quick delivery, 16 minutes, and Aiden was out. I know.
I didn't know that.
Really? Yes.
Give me your boob.
So here, they told me, they gave me two options. When they checked to see it was 10 centimeters, they said two things. You can either try and start pushing. The chances maybe you push for an hour to an hour and a half. Or you can, no, sorry. Yeah. Pushing for an hour to an hour and a half. Or you can wait 45 minutes and just allow him to come down further. And I was like, I need to poo. There's no way that I am going to hold this poo in. I know obviously
they didn't get rid of your poo for you?
I didn't poo. I didn't actually have to poo. I just felt like I had to poo for pushing. I had no poo.
Okay.
So I'm like, I feel like I need to poo. There's no way I'm holding this in. I'm pushing. So knowing that, okay, I'm going to be pushing for an hour and a half. Oh my gosh. I'm like, and she's like, okay, let's do some test runs. We did one test run and she goes, oh, I see the baby's head. We're pushing. 16 minutes out. I'm like, and you told me an hour to an hour and a half? No. And like I said, when the doctor, it was just the nurses. My first push was just a nurse. When they saw the head, the OB came in and she actually stood like just in front of me while I was pushing, no hands on. Nobody was holding me. Adrian was holding my hand on one side and I had a nurse on the other side just kind of like touching my head. And then I just pushed. Out, they grabbed baby, put baby on my chest, and that was it. And then I had to, like, my issues were post delivery. But yeah, that was my experience, to be honest.
Lord, you blessed some people. We'd like you to bless me in that way.
And that's why I wanted to, like, asking these questions, because it does have people do say that it, based on how, even my midwives, when I was my midwife, were asking, like, how was your mom's birthing experience, all of that, because there are chances that you can have something that's similar. But my birth experience was like completely different from my mom, in terms of my mom had a C-section. My mom wasn't able to breastfeed, and for me it was, I had a vaginal birth, a very quick vaginal birth, and I just, same thing as Janis told, I wasn't gonna be able to breastfeed, and I breastfed. So who knows? What is this? Your next one will be that easy in the name of Jesus. Yes, I declare over in the name of Jesus. For sure. We continue, all you guys are on here, continue to pray for her, that if God blesses her with another child, then she will have an easy peasy birth experience.
Thank you.
Yes. But it's funny, guys, because when I was talking I normally have like some type of prep in terms of the people that come on for Mommy Matters, but I said to Janis, listen, we're gonna wing this. We're gonna have a good conversation. And I liked it. This was good. This was really good. So thank you so much, Janis, for joining our family on Mommy Matters. It was so good having you. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Like, I am feeling so warm right now. Just I feel like I'm looking at my own face, because clearly we look alike. But thanks, Mom. Mom is on here too. Good job. We have lots of family on here, Janis.
Hi, Trisha.
Yes. Hi, guys. Thank you. And
yes, so Sarah says, if you're in Jamaica, Caris Woman Wellness, Ruth Ann, you can check her out for breastfeeding consultation.
awesome.
There's also Jessica Salmon, I believe. I will send you the link.
Yes.
Tenn-Lai.
Thanks for people in Jamaica. That would be good.
If you're in Canada, Tenn-Lai does Zoom consultations, right, Ten?
Yes.
And she is very passionate, and not just passionate, she's knowledgeable, on her way to be certified. Mm-hmm. And she has a lot of information and resources ready for you if you're in, yes, honeysuckle for Jessica Quinley Salmon, right? If you are in Canada, Tenn-Lai is the person to call. If you're in Jamaica, then you can get in touch with Ruth Ann at Caris Women's Wellness, and Jessica Quinley Salmon for Honeysuckle, Jamaica.
Perfect. Yes. And I will have these tagged. Obviously, I'm not going to tell myself, because those who have seen this or will be seeing this is on my page. But everybody that Janis is mentioning, I will also have them in the comments once this live is posted. So you can go ahead, check them out, and get in contact with all of these lovely people who are here to assist you, mamas. All right, guys. Thank you again for tuning in. Janis, I love you. I love you so much. All right, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, guys. Bye. Hi, Tony. Hi, Bert. Hi, Terry.